It is finally time to start harvesting out some of this massive patch of beets and get in my summer crops for the season. Peppers and tomatoes, at least some of them, are going in today, but first, this entire patch here is beets, believe it or not, and they're the biggest beets I've ever grown. I grow big beets every year. This year, they're bigger than ever. And this is what I mean. I'm talking about a 3-foot tall bed here, but if you get underneath, you see what you're actually growing. Let's hunt one down here. We're talking, yeah, let's go. It's decent size, but I know there's a monster in here. Yeah, look at this. That is a honker. So I'm gonna clear some of these out because I have a big beet salad that I wanna make. These are so beefy that I've got basically a meat cleaver. Actually, my friend Supani left this from some of our Thai cooking adventures, but I gotta get all the leaves off. I know you can eat these, but there's frankly just way too many. There's way too many. So these are gonna go compost and chickens. And if anyone wants some around the homestead, maybe I'll give some to Paul or Jacques on the team. But for the most part, those are gonna get recycled. So I probably shouldn't have taken off the tops because this roasting method works a little better if the tops are on, but that's fine. I'm gonna roast the beets whole. These just go in at 400 degrees for an hour and a half or maybe even more because they're so big. While that's going down, we'll feed the hens some of the greens. Wednesday's always the first to go. What do you think, girls? They like beet greens. And the rest are gonna go in the compost. Just put in a bunch of paper shreddings as well. Looks like we're sitting just about at steady state, but that's not in the center, so maybe if we turn it, it'll get a little bit better. Okay, now we have to crack the problem of the peppers and tomatoes. I don't exactly know where to put them this year. So here's the problem. That's where we just took the beets out. I can't harvest them all right now, otherwise I don't know what I would do with them all. These potatoes look absolutely amazing, but they're not done yet. You can see the flowers have just started to form. So there's new potatoes down there, but I really want maximum yield. So I'm gonna leave those, which means I can't use that bed. That bed's garlic over there. I've got some dill and fennel here. I've got chard here, which is my first bed. Maybe I take this chard out because I don't really need it anymore. I've got onions in this row that are looking really nice. I mean, look at the bulbing action going on these onions pretty early, not ready to harvest yet though. And then I've got these spring peas that are still kind of cranking right here. And I had root knot nematode in this area last season. And this is what I have going on right now in my pepper area. You can tell there's, you know, 4-cell tray, so that's 32 right there. There's another 32 right there, so 64 peppers. Now some of these overlap. And then I've got some tomatoes back here, and there's some more tomatoes somewhere else, but I have a ton. So what's left is the test garden, which is looking a little haggard right now. We're finishing up a potato experiment. We finished the cabbage one, the garlic one's going, but back here we have a ton of mallow, and then these back 4, where I did corn last year, I think it's one of the spots I'm gonna have to do tomatoes, which means I need to get to weeding. Okay, the area's clear. I'm gonna basically use the entire back of the test garden as a tomato wall, but I have no structure over here. Remember, last year we put up that big trellis over there, but I had root knot nematodes in that area, so I'm trying to avoid that for this year, which means that that structure I can't use for my tomatoes anymore. So what I'm gonna do is put tomatoes in along this row. It's about, I don't know, 20 feet long or so, and I'm gonna do a Florida weave, but I don't even need to weave it up today. I just need to prep the soil and get the tomatoes in the ground. I can worry about weaving it after because for the first little bit, you can string that string right around the tomatoes, no problem, even if you've already planted them. So the next step is to take a broad fork and loosen this soil up because it's been a while. Paul and I just formed the bed here. It's a very loosely structured in-ground bed. And what we have here is tomato tone, we have some mycorrhizal fungi, we have a power planter in case we need to dig a little bit deeper, we have of course all our tomatoes, and like I said, we're probably gonna do a Florida weave style trellis here, but I don't wanna put the Florida weave in today, I just wanna get the tomatoes in the ground, so I've got bamboo stakes, and what I'm gonna do is use a ratchet snipper to snip off about 18-inch chunks, tie them up, because these tomatoes, as you can tell, are pretty tall right now, and last year when I put my tomatoes really tall and buried them deep, They suffered a little bit more than I would have liked. We also released that video on the Epic Gardening channel about transplanting tomatoes deep, and we found that it really didn't have as much of an impact as we wanted. So I figured, why do it then? I'm just gonna put the tomatoes at surface level and get them in the ground. So here's a clever way to measure out a row if you are planting quite a few. We've got one of those roller tape measures. You put a little stake in the ground right here, you clip it around, you run it down, and then you can perfectly mark out your spacing along the row. Here's how we decided to do it. I have 2 sun golds right here on the edge. So these are my 2 cherries in this row. Then I've got some of the larger guys. So right here we have the Oxheart tomato. Then I have a Brandywine yellow or red, I forgot which one. And right here, we've got the Cherokee Carbon, one of my favorites. Then we get into all those storage tomatoes. This is Grappoli di Inverno. This is Borgo Salino. This one here is Russudi Benevetto. Then we've got Carbarino, Crispiania, and finally the Pianolo de Vesuvio, which I believe is the first of the storage tomatoes that ever existed. So what Paul's doing now is cutting down some bamboo stakes. Really easy way to make a quick support before you put in your permanent support. Then what we'll do is we'll throw some tomato tone in the hole, and before we transplant, we're gonna put some mycorrhizal fungal inoculant all over the tomato root ball. It's not a bad row, if I say so myself. So threw some amendments in the hole, threw a little bit over the hole. Gonna wet that down now. We stomped the row because it was just a newly formed bed. So we make sure we compact that in there. We put the little stakes on. We're gonna wet this fertilizer in, throw some garden straw on top, wet that, and then we'll throw irrigation on probably tomorrow or later today. All right, that's a pretty sexy looking tomato bed if I do say so myself. Shout out to Paul, AKA Jacques 2.0, new and improved, for the help. So a pretty nice bed here. We're gonna put the Florida weave in later, but now I'm kind of curious about those beets that were in the oven. So here are our beets, and yes, I know they look absolutely disgusting, but this is what you wanna do. You can stab in after about an hour and a half, 2 hours, if these are super big beets, so they took a while. You can stab in and then you can get the skin off really easily. So to get the skin off really easily, I like to peel one side of it like this. You create sort of a sheath. Grab a paper towel and you can squeeze it off like this. See how it just kind of flies off? Look at that. It just comes off really easily. And then I just compost the paper towel and I'm good. That way you don't have to go through the whole process of peeling it off. And then I like to use an older cutting board for this part because it does tend to stain. And you're just gonna dice it into chunks. So take a look, I mean, it's a nice looking beet right there, if I do say so. So I'm gonna go into chunks that are about, I don't know, a little under an inch. So I'm gonna cut some slabs first, little beet slabs. Get rid of some of the less appetizing parts. And I'm just gonna create these cubes, and it's gonna go into this really cool salad that's got some really awesome ingredients, most of which, unfortunately, I did not grow. So then I just go like that. So the first thing that goes in is baby arugula. I wish I grew that, but I didn't have enough, so I had to get some extra. Then you throw in your beets, and you can put in as many of these as you want. I might even add another big beet, but it just depends on how much fills up here. Next, you throw in a bunch of crumbled goat cheese, so in goes one of those. And then if it was later in the season, I'd be able to use my own pomegranates, but it's not. So I grabbed some pomegranate seeds as well. And the final whole ingredient is going to be some crumbled walnuts. So I just kind of crumbled with my hands and throw it in there. I decided I do want some more beets in here. Should be a pretty beet heavy salad. Then you just do your seasoning. So your olive oil, your salt, your pepper, maybe a little bit of lemon. I think I'm gonna add the rest of the pomegranates as well. Let's mix it up. I'll tell you what, if you have a hard time getting vegetables in sometimes, this salad is an easy way to do it. It's so easy to slam. Sweetness of the beets. You get the fat of the cheese and of the olive oil. You get the crunch of the pomegranates, and then you get the nice sort of bitterness pop of the arugula. So give it a try. See what you think. A lot more of this coming this season, guys. Good luck in the garden and keep on growing.